In 1999, the LEGO Group made Throwbots, otherwise known as Slicer, using the Technic building system and these new ball joints to create a race of aliens with these collectible tokens that came in different colors. This one was from the second wave, which was called Torch or Fire. It features a lot of red parts, some printed elements, and even gears in the gearbox. It had collectible discs with different powers, and if you pulled back on its arm in a particular way, you could get it to fire with a little bit of accuracy. This theme was one of the first to use ball joints, and they made it in a particular way so that they were stocky enough but also compact enough that they could fit back into the canisters or sort of small collectible containers that they came in. They also featured gears heavily, which you could use to rotate different limbs or appendages, and this would change depending on what Throwbot you had, varying the function of it slightly, and allowing you a bit more creativity. If you reorganize the joints in a particular way, it starts to look more and more familiar, like something that would come just a couple years later in a brand new theme called Bionicle. The narrative of Bionicle is that it came in out of nowhere and saved the company, but really, it is just a continuation of the Throwbots idea. Of course, the Bionicle figures are a lot more finished and detailed, and there are new parts, such as the gearbox and, of course, the now iconic mask system. But in many ways, it still uses gears to have a sort of functionality that every single set shares. It builds upon the same sort of joint and ball system, and a lot of the Technic elements that made up Throwbots are copied in the design language of Bionicles. Even if you look at just certain limbs on its own, you can see a lot of parts that people associate very strongly with Bionicle were actually invented for Throwbots. The iconic red connector that makes up Tahu's fingers was actually designed for Torch, and it was used in an extremely similar way on his character. Even the Bionicle connector piece is a Technic piece that was originally invented for Throwbots, which claimed to be a Technic sub-theme. Bionicle was the first time that they really stepped aside and saw Technic as a building system rather than a theme. And you can see that in the design language of individual pieces which use Technic connections as well as the new ball joint method. Ultimately, the Bionicle parts are a finished, refined version of what was invented for Throwbots. But if they were so similar, then how come Bionicle did well while Throwbots failed? Part of it is the story. It had an incredible storyline designed by Christian Faber, as well as very inventive types of toy making with the masks and a very clear system around it. Throwbots was a bit more mismatched, and the lore wasn't consistent between all of the different comics and promotional media. The mask system was a big part of Bionicle's collectability, and having the mask packs were a big part of that. The discs in Slicer really never took off, and the fact that they couldn't connect well with any other part meant that they got lost quite easily. Ultimately, Bionicle's what's remembered, and Throwbots isn't, but there really isn't much separating these two themes, and Throwbots is worth checking out if you're a fan of Bionicle. Or maybe Galador if you're really up for it.